Hello YouTube, how are you? How are you guys? How are you guys? How are you guys? Let me adjust this light. Asking people who are going through this kind of thing, how are they, is kind of like a predictable question. I know everybody's just doing the best that they can, and that is for all of us. You know, sometimes I have to take a step back when it comes to myself too, and the messages that I give out, and just kind of remember when I was going through, you know, the thick of this thing, like the worst part of it, and what I needed at that time. And the messages that I needed at that time were, you know, messages of compassion, messages of understanding, messages of not just people who know what's going on. You know, obviously you need to be hearing from people who know what's going on, and not people who are just, I don't know, just kind of telling you what they feel like. You know, I don't know if they're, well, I do. There are definitely people out there that, you know, you guys, hopefully people that are genuine TIs can tell the difference. People who are just saying, you know, reading off a sheet of paper or whatever, versus people who, you know, are actually going through it, are actually suffering. And you know, everybody that I heard from or that I listened to at the time had also been people that had gone through this as well, and some that were even actively still going through it. So, you know, for myself, it's like, as long as, and I kind of want to make this clear, as long as, I don't even know how to word this stuff anymore, but it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable to go through, because God needs you to go through this. And I don't know if I should go any deeper into it than that, but it's unavoidable because God needs you to go through it. And God needs you to go through it, and you do need to meet these people, every single one of them, every last one of them. I'm going to touch on that, or parts of that, a little bit later. I'm going to start with a Bible verse, and it's crazy. Some of these Bible verses that come, I think there's always a time where, whether it's tarot and you're shuffling cards, or whether it's, I'm finding out even with a Bible verse. There was one Bible verse I found, and I don't think that was a message from God at all. You know, but when you get one and it, you know, it's a message, I feel like it's very comforting. So this is the verse that has come to me today. So this is Proverbs chapter 4. It says, "Hear, ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to know understanding. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also, and said unto me, Let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandments, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting get understanding. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honor, when thou dost embrace her. She shall give to thine head an ornament of crown, a crown of grace, an ornament of grace. A crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. Hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of thy life shall be many. I have taught thee in the way of wisdom, I have led thee in right paths. When thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened, and when thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. Take fast hold of instruction, Let her not go. Keep her, for she is thy life. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the just is as the shining light, that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The way of the wicked is as darkness, they know not at what they stumble. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes, keep them in the midst of thine heart. For they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil. So, the craziest part is the way divine timing works is not linear. It's not the way normal timing works. So there are times where you find messages everywhere. You'll find a message, it could be in a cartoon, it could be in a movie, it could be in a song, it could be whatever. It's not just tarot readings, it's not just spiritual based things, it's not just the gospel. It literally could be anywhere, and you'll know when it's for you because it speaks to you directly. It speaks to what you're feeling, it speaks to your emotions. And I think more than anything, like, I look at even, say, my messages that I put out, and when I get a message, sometimes I'm doubtful because I'm like, what does this have to do with like anything that's happening right now? But I do it anyway because I'm like, maybe this is relevant to somebody somewhere. And then there are times, random times, where I come back onto the message and it clicks so perfectly what it's trying to say. And sometimes I only realize what the message is about if I learn something new, or I hear somebody else's message or whatever, and it's something completely isolated and just random. Like, I might be on a tangent all the time talking about, like, I'm gonna make something up, like blue paper bags. And then one day, I'll just start talking about like yellow circles. And I'll be like, that was odd, that was random. And I'll go back to, whatever it is that I think is like necessary to talk about. And then I'll come back to it randomly. Like, I might just click on it, or a video might come up and I might like watch 15 seconds. I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. It's like, it's definitely he who feels it knows type of situation, where I used to watch all of these readers and every once in a while in their reading, they're so passionate about what they're reading, and it's and the way that in the beginning I was like, wow, they're very passionate, and then eventually I realized that they had gone through things too. And now that I'm here giving messages, I'm realizing, oh wait, it's not just that they had gone through things too, they're still going through things. I want to explain to you guys that, like, and I don't know why, but I keep repeating this, and this is kind of part of what I'm going to be talking about tonight anyway. I just want to prepare people's hearts, in a sense, where you are facing this situation and you are unhappy about the situation and you want the situation to end, as do we all. Like, you want there to be a complete, total end to it. The reality of the situation is that once your eyes are open spiritually, and once you are on the side of light. Excuse me. And what I mean by that is, once you have given your life in service of, you know, the light side of goodness, of God, of the Most High, you are always going to face some semblance of spiritual attack. And what I have come to realize is that I have been under spiritual attack all throughout my entire life. I think we all have. I think it's just coming to realization that it is happening. That is the difference. You're now coming to realize, like, this is what spiritual attack looks like. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, because I do want to talk, I want to keep on the subject of kind of like destiny swapping and soul binding and whatever. But as far as soul binding goes, when you are, you know, against your will, binded to somebody else, you can feel this person in your energy. And so it's a two-way thing. It's not just that they can access your energy, but you access their energy as well. So you can feel what they feel. If they are sad, if they're hopeless, if they're suicidal, if they're whatever, you feel that. If they're angry, you feel that. If they are, you know, happy, whatever, you're feeling that. And so you become, depending on how long you are tethered to this person, you become used to feeling that. And so if this is a person who is tethered to you in order to attack you and for the attacks to work, you can feel these attacks and you know where it's coming from. And so at one point, not at one point, throughout the whole time, I was like, oh my goodness, this is something like I wish I could have avoided. I wish I knew. I wish I could have protected my home, whatever the case is. And I realized now in hindsight, and that's how you learn everything here. A lot of things is in hindsight. You don't learn it before, you learn it after. I realized in hindsight that I had to be tethered there in order to learn or to figure out what the attacks are and how the attacks are, just to get a lot of knowledge, a lot of knowledge in a short space of time. And so when all of this happened, now that you get to a point where a binding breaks off of you, and I've talked in videos before about being divorced from this and whatever, divorce from this doesn't mean that nothing's happening. It just means the soul binding part of it, the marriage part of it is broken. And getting to that point and no longer feeling any of it. And by the way, anybody going through it, it takes a while to break away. It's not right away. It takes a while to break away. Getting to that point where it does completely break away and it does detach and someone has no more influence on you, no more control over you. I wouldn't say no more control, because in my situation, it's like if somebody binds into you and you are carrying energies with you already, then they're really, in a sense, binded to those energies as well, which is probably not a good idea. But so it's not to say that they had control, but they can definitely really affect what is going on with you with a soul binding. So whether that be opportunities, income, people around you, things happening, a lot of it can get affected in the spirit because of this. Now, what I realize is you'll listen, and you would not be the first, the last, or the only that always thinks to yourself, what on earth is going on, and why did this happen, and why was this allowed to happen? And there's always a bigger reason for all of it. And in the beginning, when I was struggling with a lot of my questions, I was like, I am not coming on here to try to give people answers that I do not understand for myself. Because the worst thing is when somebody's struggling with something and you give an erroneous answer, or you give like a half-baked answer, and it just leaves them even more confused, or it makes them feel like, you know what, I don't know that I want to trust the information that I'm getting here, because I don't know if this person knows what they're talking about. I've refrained from giving answers. I'm like, until I feel confident about what I feel like I know and what I feel like I understand. And one thing I can tell you is that whether or not it's something that people want to embrace or want to listen to, there is absolutely a reason why Spirit allows the things that are happening to happen. There's a reason why it happens. If it were not supposed to happen, if it were not on your path, trust me, you would avoid it. You would avoid it with flying colors. You wouldn't be there. Of this, I can guarantee you. There is a reason why Spirit allows things to happen. I cannot tell people what the reason is, but I can tell you that there is a reason. And there's so many times, it's kind of like being a child and your parent says to you, don't do this and don't do that. Say, for example, your parents might say, don't wear these kinds of clothes, like this is too short. And you'll be upset when you're younger and you're like, you know, they're trying to control me. You see everybody else wearing it. You're like, what's the big deal? And then you yourself have kids and now you understand what the big deal is, because you're like, that's not how, you know, you'd want to see your kid outside, and that's not how you would want to be outside yourself. So that's what I mean. It's like in the moment, every particular situation, there's a particular reason. In the moment, you don't know what the reason is. You got to continue walking your path. And I'm never going to tell anybody that this isn't, you know, I'm definitely not going to say it's easy, but I'm not going to say it's easy to follow the instructions. It takes heart to follow the instructions. It takes strength to follow the instructions. It takes so much out of you because you don't understand like exactly what the situation is, and you don't understand the factors, and you don't understand why God is saying things, but God is just guiding you in whatever way, and you just got to put one foot in front of the other. You got to try your best. I don't know, you know, what provokes people to this level of hatred towards people, that they can take it this far for this long. This has been an experience for me, and this would forever change how you look at people. You know, so it is just something that you have to you have to just walk this walk. I don't even know what to say to people. And the reason I'm saying this is because I know in my situation is a lot better and has gotten a lot better. My situation used to be different. It's gotten a lot better from where it used to be. But I also know that there are people that are going through hellfire right now. And I know that for a fact because I went through the onset of this. I went through the beginning of this and I saw how crazy this was. And the longer I've stayed here is the more that I've seen that there is nobody that it's not really crazy for. The more that I get more explanation on the situation is the more I can tell you, if you find out your situation as well, what it entails and the factors that are involved, and like you're gonna need a minute. Like it's so messy, it's so entangled, it's so crazy. It's crazy. And before it is all done, then you're guided to forgive it, which is another crazy, crazy thing to ask someone after this kind of stuff. It's literally, to me, it's kind of like someone murdering your loved one, and then someone's like, you gotta forgive this person. That's, you know, human me says this is a hard thing to ask someone, and it is a hard thing to ask someone. I think everything on this path is a hard thing to ask someone to go through, every part of it. This is a practice that has existed forever, and you know, I think because it comes from the mind of lower entities, it's a construction of lower entities, and so of course it has to have existed for forever. you know, so I think this is just a way of spiritually persecuting people. That's my opinion on it. I was listening to, so I'm going to talk a little bit about destiny swaps and some points here and there. I don't know if they're all tightly correlated, but I'm just going to mention a couple things. So I was watching something today about India Ari, who I love as an artist. And it's crazy because it was like, why her, of all people, did her career not move forward? I loved everything about her. And she was so good at what she did, and I loved what she stood for. And she was talking about what she went through as far as her being in the industry and working with people, and why she pulled away and why she retired and whatnot. And I realized that she went through a destiny swap. All the symptoms that she described, that was all spell work, and she doesn't know that. So she talks about, she's very spiritual. She believes in spirit guides. She believes in praying. She believes in meditation and all that stuff. And that's great. And that is the light aspect of spirituality. It's what I call the left-hand path. The left-hand path. Very light, very angelic, very, everything is perfect in a perfect world mentality. And then she was describing things like her soul being drained, always being tired all the time. She was working on her album and her entire face was breaking out and things weren't working, and she was really pushing it through and fighting through to get things done, and then she ended up scrapping it. And I can tell you that is 100% somebody doing a destiny swap. So in order to get a destiny swap done, they got to get you off of the destiny. They got to get you off of your own path. They got to beat it off of you. Now, when they're doing this, they've already done a whole bunch of stuff in the background. They've already gone ahead and they've secured, you know, all your stuff. They've studied you long enough. They can do what you do, so they think. You know, they have the formula essentially, and they don't need you around anymore. And now the last part to do is to get rid of you, because destiny swap, two people cannot be pursuing the same thing. So I describe this so let me explain something else as well. So I mentioned the other day that you know, if you have the ability to smell things, smell people spiritually, there was a particular person that the scent, I had a very difficult time describing what their scent is. Now, you can tell where a person is spiritually by their scent. So people describe the scent of demons as things like feces and vomit and urine and just really repugnant smells. And this particular smell was also very gross. These are smells where even if you're walking outside, you can still smell them. Like, and the wind is blowing, you can still smell it. It's very strong. So if it's in a closed space, it's like it bombs the space if you can smell it, right? And I was like, what is this smell? Because but it comes and goes, and you smell it in different locations and whatnot. And I tried to describe it, and the best way to describe it is kind of like, let's say you have a bag of dirty laundry, and I wouldn't even say like a month. I want to say it's what it smells like in like an abandoned building with like bags of laundry. Like there's something to do with just like things that are abandoned. Like it's some kind of scent of like say you go into an abandoned home and people's remains are still there, like whether it's their clothes, their shoes, their whatever, it's still there, but it's like a closed space that's been locked up, so it's past the point of mildew, It's past the point of like rot. It's kind of like almost like clothes that you would find that would be like stuck together and stiff. It's like that. And then it hit me this morning. I was like, oh my God, it smells like what it would smell like if someone were squatting in an abandoned home. That's the best way for me to describe it. And then it brought my mind back to destiny swaps. So think about, I always talk about spiritual houses. Think about someone living in your spiritual house, living in your spiritual house. So say it's your home and they beat you out of it, they chase you out of it, and the home just stays exactly as it is right now. Look around your house, exactly like that. It freezes in time. The tables and chairs, the cups, everything as they are. No one's washed the dishes, put away the laundry. Say there's a basket of wet laundry waiting to be hung up or put in a dryer or whatever. And it freezes in time. And say the people, the bandits who got you out of the house, they're having issues now getting the light company to turn the lights on. They can't get the deed in their name. They can't do anything in the house or with the house. They can't get the water to flow. They can't get the water to get turned on. No water, no lights, no nothing. So instead of being able to live in the house and enjoy the house, they're just squatting in the house. They sleep on the floor or on the bed or however. It's uncomfortable. It's freezing in the winter. It's hot as heck in the summer. It's like that. That's what that person smells like. And what I realized is sometimes people, they steal things that they cannot activate. They steal things that they don't know what to do with. Because the essence of things, most things, especially things that are blessed, it's the person itself. That's who the business is, the heart of the business is, the heart of the church, the heart of the house, the heart of whatever. It's people. I remember going to some seminar, and it talked about human capital and human beings being the most valuable asset. If your destiny is a spiritual one, and I feel like for the people that are being gang stalked, it is a spiritual one, then I don't know what happened to when people do soul swaps. I don't know what happens when to their personal house when they jump into yours. I don't know if they can jump back into their life or how that works. I think it's a permanent tether. I think it's permanent, just like the soul bindings. I think that's why they go that extra mile. But I don't know what happens with their home, but it's like, imagine living in something that you can't activate. Imagine living in something and you don't have the ability to work with spirit to get it done, because whatever it is that this destiny is about involves a higher power. And so if you cannot access this higher power, then how do you get it done? And on top of it, if you cannot access, like say for example, I look at India Ari's career, and her inspiration on making the music and everything, she said it, but even if she didn't say it, you can see it's gonna come from her spirit guides, because she comes with a message. And so if you listen to the music has very specific messaging in it. And you can see that her guides are pushing her to start again and keep going and keep going. And sometimes I feel like they turn the failures into the triumph. They turn the fact that you quit on yourself, or maybe not quit on yourself, because I don't think she quit on herself, but the fact that you were beaten down, all the things that were happening. And when you're a very sensitive spirit, and I don't mean sensitive just in like empathetic or intuitive, I don't mean that way. I mean when you're a good person, when you're a person who has a good heart, when you care about people, and when you keep yourself in a certain vibration, meaning you try to think positive every day, you try to be the best that you can, you pray, you meditate, you go out of your way to have all these spiritual practices that keep you in a very high vibration. When you do all of that, and then people start this level of spiritual attack on you, you're more sensitive to it than other people. So I can understand why she went through all of this and she started feeling the spiritual attacks and she said, you know, this is not for me. I can understand that. Even though for some people you might say, well, push through. But when you're a sensitive person, meaning that you're used to a certain vibration, it is very disruptive to your vibration to have this onslaught of evil because you're not used to that. And it's so funny because the last verse of the chapter that I just read said, take not the left path or the right path, simply because you have to walk in the middle. Gang stalking will teach you the reality of human beings, not what you want it to be, the reality of it. What you want it to be is love and light. You want it to be perfect. But if it was perfect, God wouldn't have to threaten humanity all the time to wipe it clean. God wouldn't have to send a plague. God wouldn't have to send a flood because it's gotten that bad, because it's turned into a place of suffering, a thing of suffering for other people. Even for the people inflicting the suffering are still suffering. And they're probably inflicting it because they were suffering to begin with. So this is not a situation where you can walk through life only in the only in the right hand path. Sorry, I keep saying left. Only in the right hand path, thinking that life is perfect, because it is not. And you cannot walk just in a right hand path being evil, because that is also not the way forward, as we know. Sometimes it takes these situations to get people to realize it, and sometimes they don't even want to realize it. I've realized that there are people you can't negotiate with because they hate hearing the truth. They hate hearing anything bad about themselves, anything realistic, anything like, so you can't begin to break through or reason with people who feel justified in what they're doing. And so I remember very early on, Spirit said, these people will never learn. They will never learn. And in the beginning, I was like, see, as this is getting bad, people are going to learn. And I realized, no, got to give up on that. There will be no learning. And it's crazy because you would think through loss and through suffering people work, but there are people that just will not learn. And if nothing else, you can come from gang stalking saying, I've seen both sides. I've seen people who are trapped, and I could take away the bitterness that I felt towards gang stalkers in the beginning. And then I can also look on the other side and see the suffering of others and know that it's not right, and there's absolutely no excuse for this happening to other people. And the message, my takeaway from all of it is just that, it is what it is. Human beings are just, I don't know what to say. I'm not going to say they're just good. I'm not going to say they're just bad. But I'm definitely going to say it's good to take off my rose-colored glasses and think that the world is a great place. I'm not going to say the world is a horrible place, but you got to have your eyes open before moving forward. And watching what I saw from India today, what it really brought me to is just a sense of, look at what it looked like to go into your destiny, some purpose you're supposed to fill without knowing what you're walking into. Her coming back the second time, she knows what she's walking into. She knows what to expect. She knows how to manage certain things, and she knows what's going to happen, and she can figure that out. But going in the first time too heavy on the right-hand path, yeah, you're not going to last very long. She talked about being nominated for so many awards and receiving not one, like snubbed for all. And it was to the point where other people like noticed, like, that is out of control. That's insane to be nominated so many times and not get even one. And I think that's what it's like being gang stalked and people seeing is that people can see something odd is going on with you. People can see that something doesn't make sense. They can see it's crazy. They can see it. But you know, sometimes I think for a lot of us in North America, when we say things like that's a destiny swap, when we say things like, well, that's because of this or that's because of that, people definitely say things like, well, I don't believe this and I don't believe that. And then they take it to a point of belief. What do they believe? And so if it cannot be validated with their opinion or their belief, then they don't believe it. But if you talk about this anywhere in the world, people know that it's real. People, it's commonplace. It's very, very commonplace. And it's like, it's not a huge uphill battle to get people to see like there's some sort of something spiritual is happening behind the scenes with you. It's not what you think. So, you know, I think in a lot of situations, there are destiny swaps that happen and people can't activate it. And so they're in a situation of rot. They're just in a situation where they're not making money from it. They're not getting anything from it. In fact, they're losing things. They're losing all kinds of things. And I think that's what happens to people, especially in, you know, the situations like the situation I'm in. It's nothing is coming from it. It's not going the way that people think that it was going to go. And so instead of stepping into a mansion, it's almost like living in an abandoned place as a homeless person. Like the grass outside is like, you know, it's all weeds and like, you know, broken windows and birds are flying in and making nests inside the house. Like it's kind of like that because you can't activate it. There is the substance that's supposed to be in there. What's supposed to happen in there is not happening in there to give it that oomph, if you will. And so it just kind of looks like a situation. It's like taking something, but you really didn't have the formula. So I'll put it that way. They make this exchange with you, and I want to call it taking back your spiritual house. But you know, when I've seen this happen in my city, it doesn't take long for people to be beaten out of their life. I mean, I've had people that came to my business and within like a few weeks, if nothing, they stopped posting. And I mean, they've stopped posting forever. Like it's been since the last time that I spoke to them or saw them was the last time they posted. There's people where, and not just me, it would be, I've seen this even prior to myself. I've seen this in my city prior to, where it's like, hey, what happened to that person? That person just disappeared off the face of the map, but that person was big. They had a big business, they had something amazing going on, and out of nowhere, it's gone. And the thing is, it requires some fight. It does. And when I say fight, I always want to specify it's not like you're fist fighting with people and you're like attacking people in the streets. It's not like that. What I mean when I say fight is a push-pull situation where somebody's trying to push you out of your life and you're making sure that you stay in your life. And I think with the way that I've seen gang stalking approached by a lot of people is it's not approached as a journey. And I don't mean just the gang stalking part of it, but the part where someone's trying to beat you out of whatever your gift is, your passion, your life. Whenever I see this happen, sometimes, a lot of the times, I haven't seen examples of people utilizing their gift. I haven't seen a lot of examples of people like fighting back, pushing back. I haven't seen a lot of examples of people saying, I will create, I will continue, I will do what I have to do. Now, mind you, it's difficult. It's very difficult. And you got to learn a lot before you get there. You don't just get there. You got to learn about how they distract, how they cause chaos, how they cause you to have to continue to like keep starting again, starting from scratch, things you got to do. When I've been going through my process and I've been seeing my mistakes, I've been seeing the things that I've kind of let fall to the wayside. I've been going back and checking things. It's exhausting. It takes a lot of time. It's frustrating. You want to see results, but I always have to remind myself, like, to see results takes a lot of effort and it takes a while. in amazing times. I'm a person who's had to start over different things at different times, and it takes a bit of effort. It takes a lot of push. It takes a lot of grind. And that is without gang stalking on you. That's with a clear path. That's with nothing going on. It takes all of that. So you can only imagine what it takes when you have all of this on your back on top of it. This takes a very strong relationship to God. This takes a lot of belief in yourself. This takes a lot of strength and a lot of faith. It does, to not lose hope. And especially for as long as I've been going, no idea. No one can say I'm not patient, I'll tell you that. And no one can say I'm not diligent, because it takes a lot to keep going, to keep yourself motivated, to keep yourself encouraged, to keep yourself creative, to keep yourself working, to keep yourself producing. It takes quite a bit. So literally, you're one hand defending, one hand doing all of this stuff, taking care of your normal life, and another hand just going freaking crazy in getting everything done that you have to get done and continuing to push forward and trying to progress and whatever. So I don't want to say be easy on yourself for sure. Do not beat up on yourself. You're the last person who needs to beat up on yourself. And your spirits are gentle with you because they're seeing way more outside of what you're seeing. What you're seeing is just the bit where it's affecting you. And there's stuff that they're blocking. There's stuff that they're avoiding you even finding out about because they need you focused. There is so much outside of just that. And there's even the situation that would probably make you think like, are you kidding me? And incrementally, as I found out more about my situation, I have definitely been like, are you actually kidding me? Like, this is crazy. So I've seen people, and that's the thing, you know, with me, I always want to jump in and help someone and jump in and say to someone, hey, look at what you're doing. Look at what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Like, you should do this. I seen someone and it was like, this person's gift is to be a designer, but they do it so good. You can see the money flowing out of the design. And destiny swapping people like that, I don't know how it works, because if they're going to take that business, she is the business. She is the designer. She is the mastermind. So I don't know how they would recreate it. They would probably just recreate the same thing over and over, where someone like her would probably be innovating and advancing and evolving and doing better and better over time. So I don't know how the destiny swapping works, but you know, they would probably figure it out. I think that people who destiny swap, it's obviously because they feel like maybe life has issued them. So, first of all, I think it's and people who are not satisfied with what they have to begin with, because I cannot see God not giving everybody a path or a gift. Now, I'm not saying everybody's path or gift is going to result in millions of dollars, but you definitely have to try to explore whatever it is that you're meant to do, because sometimes you don't know where it's meant to lead you. So for me, I just kind of feel like it's definitely people who haven't explored whatever their talents and abilities are. But for you to think that you will or want to exchange with someone, it definitely has to be because whatever you see is something that you think you couldn't do on your own. Now, I also know that people who have engaged in certain activity before are also people who have collected the kind of karma and luck that nobody would want. So you can tell, listen, and I've said this before, there are times where I've literally, like, and I kid you not, I was in a store one time and I looked over and somebody walked past a shelf and like everything on the shelf fell over. And I literally looked at my kid and I was like, oh my God, did you see that? And it's happened before where it's like there are people that carry that kind of energy where it's like the opposite of people who carry light energy, where people have good luck by coming around them. These people have bad luck by coming around people. Like, they come around and things go horribly. And I imagine those are the kinds of people that want a destiny swap, is they probably are like, they probably don't want to live like that anymore. And there's probably, you know, I'm not even going to go into why or whatever. I'm definitely not going to pretend to understand people like this. I work a long time to try to understand, and I think it's futile. I don't even see the benefit of doing it. But there is, for the people that I have encountered in my gang stalking journey, who have been people who've wanted to destiny swap, I have always been able to see, even though I don't know their entire life, I've been able to see why. It's kind of like someone saying, well, something doesn't work for me, or this doesn't work out for me. And then you're like, no, 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 of course it can. And then you go with them and you try to, and you're like, oh, that's why it doesn't work. It's kind of like that, where they just figure, well, you know what, if I could take somebody else's idea and just run with it, then maybe that'll work. I don't think it works that way, to be honest with you. I really don't. And so I can understand why the messaging regarding destiny swapping is so, it's like people take different sides, where some people say it can't be done and some people say it can only be delayed. Because I'll tell you, let's say somebody does take somebody's idea that they had in like 1999 and they run and they make a career of it. That same person would go through their journey of being depressed, sad, blah, 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 pick themselves back up, redevelop the idea, dust it back off, rework it, do it completely differently than they did it in 1999, and still do an amazing freaking job, and come out and just be the evolved version. But the reality is that it's them. They are the ones that can do this. Now, I think this kind of happened to me before. I wouldn't call it that time a destiny swap, but they did get my business page canceled, which is how they got my business name. And I think the way that that happened is the way it blindsides you. They come all around, but I know exactly how it happened. You know, that they got me off the page or whatnot. And I guess that was revenge for me not wanting to be friends with people, or, you know, whatever, at that time, not wanting to make friends with the particular girls that were sent around and get into that lifestyle. But that's the thing. I took a break. I didn't even take a long break. I reworked everything and I came back and I popped back up, and I did things in a more responsible way that way. I did things differently. I decided that there was another way for me to do it. I reworked it a different way, and I did it in a more sustainable way. And there was no rushing, but it was just me doing things in such a way that made sense for me. And, you know, it took off. And, you know, like I said, I'm no stranger to starting again and reworking things. So that's not ever daunting for me. But it was just a situation. It was just, you know, these are the things that I think about now, as far as looking at, can someone actually take something from you? No, because it comes from your mind, it comes from your heart. It's a passion. And when you're passionate about things and when you love things, it's gonna come, it's gonna flow out naturally. And I think it's the same for people who have lost their lives in this situation. Maybe you didn't have like an actual passion, maybe you weren't like a designer or anything like that, but whatever it is that you're going through and whatever it is that you have to endure on this journey, just know that however it goes, and yes, you should definitely fight. You should fight for your rights. You should stand up for yourself. You should keep pushing. You should keep doing yourself 100%. That comes with the journey. That only makes sense. However, excuse me, whatever part you find yourself on, just remember that the ideas flow from you. I want to make sure that I say, I know that some people, they really want to make you homeless. They really want to take everything from you. They want to destroy you completely. They want to get rid of you in every way that they can. However, no matter where this journey takes you, and I cannot tell everybody where their journey is going to take them, because there are people who have landed homeless. There are people who have had all of these things done, but no matter where the journey takes you, just know that your ancestors are with you, your spirits are with you. And I know, yes, everybody doesn't believe in that, and I get it, but they are with you whether you believe in it or not. you have that help in the spirit realm, whether you believe in it or not, whether you want to tap into it or not, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. It's just like a crying shame if you didn't. So you have that available to you, and one way or the other, you should be fine. And the reason I'm saying that is when something's a passion for you, it's gonna pop out of you no matter what. It's going to, they may beat it out of you or block it for a bit, and the minute the dust settles, your heart flows right back to it. That's why people call it a gift. It's something that you're passionate about. It's something that you actually care about. This is not really, when people sit there and they craft things, the people that craft it just for the money, you can see it. And then the people that craft it from the heart, these are the things that you're magnetically drawn to. These are the things that, people are obsessed with. This is, it's like, it's the difference between, I don't know what even is a good example right now, but you can tell projects where people, like, let's say 2 albums. There's an album where somebody made something with autotune, and they're just rapping or singing or whatever about the same thing everybody else is singing about. And then there's some people who make an album and you tell that they had like a spiritual awakening, and you can tell that there's some pain, there was a breakup, there was, a life-changing event that happened to them, and that album is spilling with so much emotions that you can play it 20 years later and it still just takes you to wherever it is that the person who made the album take you, or was taken when they made it. That is the difference between when it is yours and when it is not. It's the same way where you see people pretending to be someone else and you listen to them. Anything, it could be the way they laugh, it could be the thing they say, it could be whatever, and you know that's not them. They're mimicking something else. It could be the way that they talk. Once something is original to someone, it is consistent, it is passionate, you feel it, and it's an instinct in every single one of us that knows, like, this is this person's signature. There is something here that is deeper. There's something here that is meaningful. There's something here that comes from a different place, rather than somebody that just kind of stole it, put it together, copied it. You can tell. In my city, I was copied all the time, and you could literally tell that I was the originator of everything that I was doing. And it's like I couldn't even get upset because I would get irritated. I would be like irritated. I'd go to their page, I'd look at it, and I'd be like, oh my goodness. There wasn't enough there to make me feel that I had been robbed of anything. There was not, and I think, and it resonated. It showed in their sales, it showed in everything, I think. So that is how you have to take it. Whatever is put inside of you is something that is inside of you for a reason. Develop it, grow it, deep dive into your creativity, and some words of encouragement with this, because people will not always, when you're a TI, you're not going to get this encouragement. So I just want to tell you this as someone who has built something on their own. First of all, you should be starting small. You should not be starting big just because people are telling you to start big, or just because you're going to feel uncomfortable or people are going to laugh at you or whatever. You should absolutely be starting however you start. It's not wise, even for people with money, to throw a whole ton of money into something that has not been developed. The first prototype, the second prototype, hell, the 100th prototype, it takes time. You are building one thing on top of the other thing. You're putting one foot in front of the other. A spiritual journey, having a baby learning to walk, all of it is the same thing. It's just the consistency and the persistence that puts you where it is that you need to go. Do not worry about people laughing at things that are in a development stage. It's gonna happen. Everything that I've ever started, people have laughed at me the entire time. People have mocked it, they've ridiculed it every single time. This is something that I'm personally, it's like I expect it. So that's why, just for me, I'm a little bit more immune to people laughing, because it's like, this is how innovation happens. You have to be willing to be cringe. You have to be willing to try. I even had people literally come to me and they're like, oh, you're always trying new things. Even people that didn't like me, tried to compete with me, had things to say, they too realized that I'm still gonna innovate. I'm still trying something. So at a certain point, it comes to the point where you can see that something new is happening, and it takes a while until you find that thing, that one thing that catches on. So you gotta rework things, you gotta restart things. It's like a push-pull thing. In the last 2 years, I've started I've started and stopped and restarted and cleaned up and wiped the slate clean and started again, over and over and over and over and over again. It's happened over and over again. And this is how it works, because sometimes you look back on all the work you've done and you're like, I don't like that. This is not the direction. This doesn't make sense. And it's particular things. So don't worry about having money right now. It comes. You want to develop things with sweat before you develop things because of investment. It takes time. And I cannot stress that. It takes time. So you got to work with yourself. Even if you're an artist and your drawings will become better over time. Your music becomes better over time. There's something in it that just, you're baking, you're cooking, whatever it is, it gets refined over time. And it is what it is. And you have to have faith to trust the journey. That is not easy. You're gonna come to points where you're gonna beat down on yourself and you're gonna be like, oh my God, like I've been doing this for so long. How comes? And you really have to look at situations where, I think it was Thomas Edison, where it was like 1,000 times they tried before they got the light bulb to work. 1,000 times. Can you imagine if you gave up on the 980th time? No one could say you were not perfect or patient. No one could say you weren't diligent with that process. And it would have only taken, what's the math on that? 12 more times for you to get to where you needed to go. 12 more times, literally. Like you're right there. And you never know when you're right there. So if it's something that you're passionate about and something you cannot see yourself not doing, then you just owe it to yourself to fight for it and to keep pushing through it and to try to get it done. And I don't mean done as in finished. I don't mean done as in perfected, but get the work done. Find the passion, be creative. And I know when you're in the middle of being beat down in this way, it's being done to take your focus off of that. But you have to redirect your own focus back to the things that are important to you, back to the things that make sense. And those things include, but are not exclusive to, taking care of your physical self, taking care of your home, taking care of your family if you have one, taking care of whatever your gift, your passion, or whatever it is that you were doing before you ended up in this situation. Just taking care of the priorities, because if you don't, these are the things that fall apart, and then you end up living in somebody else's house as a squatter, as they take yours and they run off with it. So you gotta be careful to focus on yours. You gotta defend and manage your own spiritual house. And things happen, like I said, everybody has their path, so I can't say everybody's not supposed to go through that process where it does come to a head or it does come to an end. I'm not gonna say that, but I'm definitely gonna say that you gotta just focus on yourself. The distractions are plenty. Do not expect, no one's like, I hate to say it this way, but you gotta talk to yourself this way, that nobody's coming to save me. I gotta do my best. I gotta figure out my own path. I gotta, walk through this. I have to figure this out myself. No one's coming here to save you. So, for me, I look at everything day by day, and that's what I've always done, and that's what I suggest, people who are being beaten down in this way, that's what I suggest from you as well. Look at it day by day. Every day is a new day to improve on what you were doing before. Every day is a new day to groom yourself a little bit better than you were before. If you were practicing not being stressed out by people following you, if you are practicing not having anxiety, if you are practicing, to look past things, if you're practicing forgiveness, whatever it is that you're practicing for that day, you got to look at it day by day and get through everything day by day, and like just groom yourself, groom your practices, just do better for yourself every day. That's all you can do. And you really have to ignore the madness, or it's going to irritate you to no end. You're going to turn like these people. You're going to get bitter. You're going to get toxic. You're going to get hateful. It's not hard. I feel like I should have already been there for the nonsense that I've experienced personally. It's not hard to do. It's much, much, much harder to try to stay in the light. It's much, much, much harder trying to be a healed version of yourself. It's much harder trying to forgive. It's much harder trying to have self-control. That is what's hard. It's insanely difficult, so trying to be the best version of yourself, it's gonna take everything, but it's your life and it's worth it. And there just should never be a day that you even consider giving that up. That is the encouragement that I want to give. I want to say that you cannot bloom in a place with this kind of attack, because once people have been dedicated, like taken money and dedicated themselves to doing this to you, it's like they appoint themselves as a destruction in your life. And God has to clean that part of it up. And this is why I call this co-creation. In my journey, I've learned the parts that are not me and the parts that are me. The parts that are me are require so much already that I cannot take on anything more, especially the parts that God has to take care of. In your time, there are going to be parts of this that you have to give to a higher power, because you are not equipped to fight this in the spirit on your own. You need a spirit team to help you in the spirit, because you're being attacked in the spirit, and they need to do their part in the spirit first before you can see your part over here. It is very grueling to stay on your feet as it is. It does get easier. I'm not gonna lie to you, but this takes training. It takes grooming. It takes monitoring yourself even more closely than other people monitor you, monitoring your household, monitoring everything, being on top of things. But it takes time, it takes practice. But when the lesson is learned, it's learned. That's one thing about gang stalking. When you learn that lesson, you really learn that lesson, because you learned it by fire. When you learn that lesson, you learn that lesson by fire. If you learn how to meditate while being beat down on, you know how to meditate. Trust me, because most people are having a difficult time getting into the meditation, and there's nothing there bothering them. So please do understand. You gotta go through it. And how long is it gonna take? Who knows? But you gotta get to a point where it's like, who cares? What do I have to do? Because you gotta take care of yourself. Be very mindful of trying to go back to what was fake peace. Fake peace to me is what I call the matrix. It's what I call the land of illusions that you were in before. And that is a place where you're like, well, I made this amount of money and I didn't have these problems or whatever, but you know what? Look at how they can come into your life, or anybody's life that lives in that place, and just throw a sledgehammer to it and destroy it so quickly. So it's a fake place with fake peace and fake everything. And wanting to go back there, you have to understand you would just be going back to being under submission. Except now you would know for a fact that you have to be in fear, that you are a slave, because at any time you know what can happen. Once this starts, just like the gang stalkers, you gotta stick it through to the end. Whatever the end might be, whatever that might look like, however that might look. I remember listening again to the India Ari interview, and she was talking about the fact that what she thought was success, or what looked like success to her, is not what other people thought was success. And I very much understand that, because when you're a spiritual person, Your idea of success is not like material things that people can see. So it's very easy for you to walk away from any situation where the reward is something material. If it's going to be something that's fake, but it's going to have a lot of money, then that doesn't work for people who are more spiritually inclined. People who want to go somewhere peaceful and be with spirit guides do not care about like and want to be alone. Like there are people who, and they could, I think it's beyond just introvert, extrovert, and all these like personality archetypes, because people are more than that. I think it really comes down to, there are people who are fulfilled when they're around their spirit team. So it's not about just, how would I put it, wanting to be by yourself, not wanting to be around people. It's really coming down to people who want to be people who want to be in the spirit. Hold on, sorry, I shouldn't have to do this here, but I really got to do this. Yeah, so as I was saying, if you're one of these people who, I don't know everybody that's going through this obviously, but if you're one of these people who, peace matters more to you than a lot of the other things going on, then I absolutely understand. If you might think this is not worth it, this is not worth my peace of mind, I don't want to deal with this, i would I would feel the exact same way. But I definitely will tell you, you are not going to be fulfilled in your life unless you follow the path in your heart, regardless of what kind of obstacles it comes with. Give me a second. Yes, as I was saying. So, listen, being someone who's going through an attempted destiny swap right now, I'm going to tell you, they attack the things that you need. Now, lucky for me, there are certain things that I feel like I don't need as much that do get attacked. So they might attack your face, or your looks or your appearance. They might attack, for me, I just don't feel like I need that where I'm going necessarily. And what do I mean? It's not that I don't care how I look completely, but it's just like, I'm not a singer. I don't need to like take pictures for an album cover or anything like that. They're definitely going to attack your health, and we all need that. They're going to attack different parts of your life, your peace, your this, your that. And what is really important is to know the difference between when it's an attack outside and when it's yourself, because you're going to need to know how to address issues. I'm going to encourage people and continue to encourage people, please address things as they come up, all of them. Don't let anything lag. Don't look away from doing anything. Make sure you address things as they come up. And it can be simple things or it can be big things. It could be something as simple as like a screw's loose on a cupboard, and you don't want this to end up being an issue where it like takes your eye out because the cupboard door falls off. Or it could be something more complex, like a health scare, or you're seeing a growth on you and a swelling or whatever it is that might come up. Take care of it, and then continue to take care of it and learn it. And what you want to do is put together an arsenal for everything. I've gotten as far as I've gotten to, because you ever see the movies or the cartoons where every time they're sent an attack, they almost like consume it or they absorb it, and then they learn it and they become immune to it. That is what you want to do. You want to develop like a handbag of solutions. So I remember in the beginning of this, when this first started, I gained weight because I didn't know this was a spiritual thing. It was odd to me. I felt it was odd. And with gaining the weight that way, one day I would look skinny, another day I would look not skinny, but I would look like back to myself. And another day I'd be fat again because they're reworking it. And so this time around, you learn. Hopefully you learned. So this time around, I learned and I'm like, oh, okay, that's how that works. So I can even avoid it. Instead of having to do another glow up, I can avoid it. And this is one example of the many, many, many things that are going to come your way. They are going to continue sending everything that you could think of. And it's an amazing opportunity to learn everything that you can. And outside of someone physically saying this to you, it might not be something that you are really, that you would easily come to on your own. You just feel beaten down upon. But I'm saying it, hopefully, I figure some of my messages might be future messages. And if somebody sees it, I just want to let you know, take the opportunity to learn everything that you possibly can about this situation. If people are trying to make you break out on your face, let's say, and get acne and you got to heal it, then learn how to heal acne from yourself. And it takes both on the spiritual side and on the physical side. It takes both. So it's not just going to be just one thing. If you're being sent for you to gain weight, it's not just going to be on the spiritual side, but then you're eating anything that you want and you're overeating and whatever. It has to be both. It has to be on both sides that you attack this issue. A lot of the time, sometimes your attack leads to you meeting people. Your attack leads to you running into people that need to, be served karma, or people that need to find themselves in however it goes in your particular situation. But had you remained, let's say you had not been attacked, you would never have known. Had you not been put in this situation, you would never have known. And looking at where I'm looking at things now, there's a lot of situations that had I not been put into, I would never have known. And so where I'm sitting right now is, I prefer to know. I just always prefer to know. The truth is, you've been living like this long before you knew. That's why people say that they've been gang stalked their entire life and they're in their 30s and whatnot. That's why they say that. Because you knew that you knew that something was odd. You knew that you would get somewhere and let's say you got a group of friends and everything was good and then all of a sudden they all turned on you. Or you got to a workplace and they loved you in the beginning and you got into this habit of just expecting when the switch is gonna happen. So you've been living like this for a while. And now that you know the truth, now that it's uncovered, and I've been meaning to say this for a while, it's like in some way you almost feel better. You feel better that now at least I understand why. I understand. Thank God it makes sense to me now why this is all happening. So, there's that. I feel like now that, and I can speak for myself, now that maybe I've gotten stronger, I've gotten wiser, I've gotten stronger in the spirit, it's like the kind of cases that are put on your back have increased because you can handle more. So you're given more. The more lessons you learn and the more thresholds that you pass through, the more you learn. Now, I do not want to give the impression that these are easy things to learn. This is not like a beginner course here. And I know Spirit knows that. I think if you've handled it with grace thus far, I think Spirit's extremely proud of you. And I don't like speaking for Spirit all the time, but I could say that because I am extremely proud of anybody that handles this with grace. If you've been through this for years and years and years and you're still a calm person, I'm extremely proud of you, honestly. For me, I have to push back on it. I have no choice. I have to continue doing the things for myself that I have to continue doing. And so it's tougher on me. I get beat down on a lot more And you know, you're gonna have your patient days, you're gonna have your impatient days, you're gonna have your days where you're like so sick of this, and then you're gonna have days where it's like you're pumped and you're ready to go and you can't wait to attack the day, etc., etc. So be patient with yourself, because patience is required of you, and you don't know how long, and not every day you feel strong, but you know, you gotta just get through every day as best as you can. The rest of what I have to say, I'm gonna keep it here, because this is like the third reworking of this message, not even a reworking of it, but I just feel to be in an encouraging mood today. Reason being is that, you know, when I need encouragement, I go into the spirit and I pray, and they definitely encourage me as well. But you know, whatever the vibe is, that spirit kind of makes me kind of pivot the message. I don't know who needs to hear what, but the bottom line is, if you're a TI, giving up is not an option. Like, you literally have to have the attitude of we die here, no matter what it is. Bad days are but a day. You know, stay on your feet. And just remember, these people definitely have sent you death spells. They definitely sent health stuff. And the fact that you're still here and you don't know how to do spiritual baths, and I'm talking to people who are not spiritual. You don't know how to do spiritual baths, and you don't know how to do root work, and you don't do voodoo, and you don't do any of this, and you're still here, means that you're protected. And I think for people that have this kind of spiritual calling on their life, people don't realize you've been protected your entire life. They may know of what you communicate to people on apps and on devices and on emails, but that is not a person. A person is a human flesh walking spirit in a vessel. That's a person. And so you cannot know a person just from, you know, people hacking you and thinking that they know what you like and your favorite color and whatever. Like, that's not knowing a person. So you probably have a billion stories of a billion things that have happened that you shared with no one. Things that you walk through alone, especially if you're a person who doesn't, you know, maybe, you know, like myself, I've never been social. So you've experienced all of your stuff on your own, and probably never shared with people a billion stories of when God saved you from so much stuff. If you're not meant to go, you're not meant to go, and it doesn't matter what blocks that. You know, for me, I just started with spiritual baths. Maybe I took them when I was younger, when not knowing what it was. But for my personal self, I just started with that. And people have been sending me spell work for years. Never went to the hospital. Never been a sick person. It's not gonna happen now. You're gonna continue, you know, God will take care of you. You're gonna continue walking the path that God has intended for you, because God's not budging. And I meant to say this as well, and I just want to add this last bit before I go. So, there's one more thing I want to do before I go. But I want to add this last bit before I go. If you've ever experienced like a spiritual energy, they are persistent. And what I mean by they are persistent, I mean like they cannot be ignored. Not they do not want to be ignored, they cannot be ignored. Like, spirits want you to know that they're there, and they want you to know their intention. And that's why people call it hauntings, because spirits want you to know that they're there. Excuse me. And so if a regular spirit is like that, imagine how God is going to be with you. When God wants you to know something, you could stop meditating, stop praying, stop doing everything, try to close your eyes. If you close your eyes, God is going to be right there behind your eyelids. Whatever you read, whatever you see, it's impossible to escape. So God will not let you give up on yourself. It will not be possible. I'm telling you, it will not be possible. When God wants you to do something, you can be as stubborn as you want, and you're just going to be like, oh my God, fine. Because that is how persistent spirits are. The spiritual realm, the spirit world, that is how persistent they are. So if they are banking on you, you might think you have the option, but you don't. There is no option for you. You gotta walk your path because this is the only path, and their job is to get you where you have to go on time, and they will bombard you. So I wouldn't even bother trying. I would just walk the path. Is the path tough? Yes. Are you gonna punch the air some days? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. You're only human. People who have gotten through it without complaining, I can't imagine how. I can't imagine how. But you know, you just got to do your best every day, and that's the encouragement that I can give. So I wanted to talk about, and I'm not going to put it off any longer, because I've been reading about gods, goddesses, and deities, and today I'm going to read about one of my favorite ones, Shiva, or pronounced Siva. So I'm going to read about this because it's been really it's been a fascinating part of my spiritual journey to learn about different aspects of spirituality, different religions, different cultures, different gods, goddesses, whatever. And so I just want to pass that on and share it, because I feel like in learning more about different, all of them, you kind of see kind of similarities, and you know, hopefully it helps you on your spiritual journey as much as it's helped me. So Shiva is one of the most important gods in Hinduism and a member of the Holy Trinity, or the Trimurti, with Brahma and Vishnu. Shiva is a complex character who may represent goodness and benevolence, and he serves as the protector. Shiva is also associated with time, and in this capacity, he is both the destroyer and the creator of all things. In Hinduism, the universe is thought to regenerate in cycles. So this would be every 2,160,000,000 years. Shiva destroys the universe at the end of each cycle, which then allows for a new creation. Shiva is also the great ascetic, abstaining from all forms of indulgence and pleasure, concentrating rather on meditation as a means to find perfect happiness. He also has a darker side as the leader of evil spirits, ghosts, and as the master of thieves, villains, and beggars. Shiva is the most important Hindu god for the Saivism sect, the patron of yogis and Brahmins, and also the protector of the Vedas, the sacred texts. Shiva, Parvati, and Ganesha. Shiva's wife is Parvati, often incarnated as Kali and Durga. She was in fact a reincarnation of Sati, the daughter of the god Daksha. Daksha did not approve of Sati's marriage to Shiva, and even went further and held a special sacrificial ceremony to all the gods except Shiva. Outraged at this slight, Sati threw herself on the sacrificial fire. Shiva reacted to this tragedy by creating two demons, Viradhadra and Radrakali, from his hair, who wreaked havoc on the ceremony and beheaded Daksha. The other gods appealed to Shiva to end the violence, and complying, he brought Daksha back to life, but with the head of a ram or goat. Sati was eventually reincarnated as Parvati in her next life, and she remarried Shiva. With Parvati, Shiva had a son, the god Ganesha. The boy was in fact created out of earth and clay to keep her company and protect her while Shiva went on his meditative wanderings. However, Shiva returned one day, and finding the boy guarding the room where Parvati was bathing, he inquired who he was. Not believing the boy was his son and thinking him an impudent beggar, Shiva called up the Bhutagana's demons, who fought the boy and eventually managed to distract him with the appearance of the beautiful Maya, and whilst he admired the beauty, they lopped off his head. At the commotion, Parvati rushed from her bath and screamed that her son had been killed. Realizing his error, Shiva then sent for a new head with which to make the boy whole again, but the nearest at hand was of an elephant. And so Ganesha, the elephant-headed god, was born. Other sons of Shiva are Skanda and Kartikeya, the god of war, and Kuvera, the god of treasures. Ganga, the goddess who personified the river Ganges, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Ganges, I'm gonna look that up and see how to pronounce that, was given to Shiva by Vishnu, who could not take any more of the constant quarrels between his then 3 wives of Lakshmi, goddess of good fortune, Saraswati, goddess of wisdom, and Ganga. To cushion Ganga's fall to the earth and prevent such a great river destroying civilization, Shiva caught her in his hair topknot, once again illustrating his high quality of self-sacrifice. As with any major god, Shiva was involved in many adventurous episodes which illustrate his virtuous character and often offer instruction on how to live correctly. For example, self-sacrifice is emphasized when Vasuki, the king of serpents, threatened to vomit snake venom across the seas. Shiva assumed the form of a giant tortoise or turtle, collected the venom in his palm, and drank it. The poison burned his throat and left a permanent blue scar, hence one of his many titles becoming Blue Throat. Another celebrated episode describes how Shiva became associated with the bull Nandi. One day, oh my god, the names, I'm so sorry. Surabhi, who was the original mother of all the world's cows, began to give birth to an untold number of perfectly white cows. The milk from all of these cows flooded the home of Shiva somewhere in the Himalaya. Angry at his disturbance to his meditation, the god struck the cows with fire from his third eye. In consequence, patches of the cows' hides were burned brown. Still angry, the other gods sought to calm Shiva down by offering him a magnificent bull, Nandi, the son of Surabhi and Kasyapa, which Shiva accepted and rode. Nandi also became the protector of all animals. Shiva is closely associated with the linga or lingam, a phallus or symbol of fertility or divine energy found in temples to the gods. Following the death of Sati and before her reincarnation, Shiva was in mourning and went to the Daru forest to live with rishis or sages. However, the wives of the sages soon began to take an interest in Shiva. In jealousy, the rishis first sent a large antelope and then a gigantic tiger against the god, but Shiva swiftly dealt with them and wore the tiger's skin thereafter. The sages then cursed Shiva's manhood, which, in consequence, fell off. When the phallus struck the ground, earthquakes began, and the sages became afraid and asked for forgiveness. This was given, but Shiva told them to forever after worship the phallus as the symbolic linga. So I'm not gonna go down any further on that one. It just talks about how Shiva is represented in art. And I think I had a couple different links here, but they all kind of are gonna go over the same thing. I spend a bit of my time every once in a while kind of listening to like different deities, and you know, it just kind of depends on what you're going through in your own gang stalking situation. Like if this is a spiritual ascension for you, if this is something that you're kind of like just enduring, I'm not sure. I'm thinking that it should be some sort of spiritual ascension for everyone. However, I cannot dictate that for people. And you know, people have to be ready for their spiritual walk whenever they're ready, because spirit can encourage you as much as spirit wants to encourage you. They can push you as much as they want to push you. You have to be willing. You have to take the physical steps. You know, they're probably going to try to push you, harass you, convince you, create circumstances around you, whatever. But it's like, if you're refusing you know, to open up your mind or open up your heart, then, you know, it's not gonna work. Things really do have to be self-directed and come from you. But that is my message for today. And okay, I'm gonna read the last one on here because I usually do. It says, let go of the old and make way for the new. You may find yourself being distracted by random thoughts, fears, or doubts. Don't allow yourself to be governed by them. Simply observe and choose to take aligned actions and choices. This is definitely not a path of perfection with this gang stalking thing. I've had so many days falling. And when I say falling, it could be in any way, shape, or form. And then, you know, what's more important is that, you know, you get back up, you continue what you're doing, you continue grooming yourself. It's taken me a long time to get to certain things, but I'm just happy that I got there and happy that I've made progress. And as I've made my progress, I've kind of seen like things try to like come in and block the progress, and just like rising above that as well, you know. So whatever it is that you're managing to try to get over, it could be forgiveness, it could be finding peace, it could be whatever it is, just keep pushing. I had a totally other message planned. I guess I'll give it tomorrow. But today it is just encouragement, because a lot of days people just need encouragement. When I was going through the most horrible part of this, encouragement was incredibly needed on my part. And I got tons of that, to be honest. So hopefully I can give that to people, and, you know, hopefully you feel better. So that is all I have to say. Thank you. Have yourself a great day and a good night. And remember, God loves you.